When you think about tanks, you probably think of a modern battlefield, something loud, massive, and crashing everything in its path. But what if I told you that the idea of a tank has been around for thousands of years? Before engines and steel plating, people were already sketching, building, and riding into the battles with the early prototypes of tanks. Let's start with one of the coolest examples, Leonardo da Vinci's armored vehicle. Yeah, that Leonardo. Around 1487, Leonardo sketched a circular armored vehicle made of wood covered with metal plates. It looked like a spiked turtle on wheels and was designed to have cannons around its 360 degrees. It had slanted walls to deflect attacks and guns pointing out in every direction. Inside, soldiers would crank gears to make it move. Now here's the thing. This thing was totally impractical. It was heavy, slow, and had a weird gear system that wouldn't have worked. Some historians even think he did that on purpose, to stop it from being used in real war. But even so, the concept was there. Full armor, crew protection, and 360-degree firepower. That's the tank blueprint, 400 years early. Now go back even further to ancient India, Persia, and Carthage, where they used war elephants. Massive armored beasts with soldiers riding on top, throwing spears or firing arrows. These elephants were basically the ancient version of tanks. They were tough to kill, terrifying to face, and could smash everything through enemy lines. They had armor on their heads and sides and carried towers on their backs with archers and spearmen. But like tanks, they weren't perfect. Elephants were hard to control, could panic, and needed well-trained soldiers with the right weapons. But in ancient times, they were terrifying mobile destruction. In the 15th century, people used tanks in Bohemia. During the Hussite Wars, the rebels were too weak to fight back against the strong cavalry. To change the conditions, they built war wagons that are big wooden carts covered with shields and armor and filled with crossbowmen, gunmen, or even tiny cannons. These things acted like mobile forts. They'd roll into position, form a circle or line, and fire from all sides. If the enemy charged, the wagons could block them while the shooters picked them off. They weren't fast, but they were tough, organized, and deadly, especially against armored knights. The war wagons gave the power to common soldiers to fight back against the elite cavalry. That's the same core idea behind the tank, flipping the balance of power with mobile protection and firepower. We can also find more tank ideas if we go all the way back to ancient Rome, Greece, and the Assyrians. The siege towers, the tall wooden structures on wheels that soldiers pushed toward castle walls. When they reached the enemy wall, troops would pour out from the top of the tower and start the attack. The whole thing was covered in armor to protect it from arrows and fire. There were also battering rams. The Romans called it Testudo. It was literally a mobile shell with soldiers inside, pushing forward to knock down gates while staying protected from attacks above. It's the same formula of modern armored vehicles, the same concept, a mobile, shielded structure delivering troops to enemy lines. As one of the oldest ideas of tanks, China used armored siege carts in Han Dynasty. These were big wheeled platforms that carried archers and soldiers under cover. Some had metal-plated roofs and some had layered shields to protect the troops. They even used rolling walls, literal walls on wheels, to protect crossbowmen when they marched forward. These designs were smart, simple, and effective. They helped soldiers to be safe while moving, which is exactly what a tank does now. The Chinese also had flame-throwing carts, early gunpowder weapons mounted on wagons, and even rocket launchers on mobile frames. They weren't tanks, but they were definitely thinking in that direction. So here's the big question. Why didn't any of these ancient tanks turn into real tanks? It all comes down to technology. You need powerful engines to move heavy armor. You need steel, not wood. You need tracks to handle rough terrain. And you need advanced weapons to make it all worth it. None of those things existed until the early 20th century. But the ideas, the inspiration, that had been building for centuries. By the time World War I came around, trench warfare had turned the battlefield into a nightmare. So when engineers started to use the old ideas, armored protection, mobility, and heavy weapons, they weren't starting from scratch. They were standing on the shoulders of elephants, war wagons, and Leonardo da Vinci. The first real tanks were heavy and slow, but they changed everything. All the powerful tanks, from T-34 to M1 Abrams, all need to follow those ancient battle beasts. So yeah, tanks didn't just appear out of nowhere in World War I. From ancient elephants and siege towers to medieval wagons and Da Vinci's wild sketches, humanity has been trying to build the ultimate battlefield vehicle for a long time. And today, that dream is alive and rolling forward faster than ever. If you enjoyed this forgotten military history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you in the next videos.